Imagine this. You power on a PlayStation, and before the screen even loads, you feel it. The promise that gaming is about to change again. Not because of some distant future tech, but because Sony has finally decided to unleash the next evolution of console power. And today, we're diving deep into something that gamers around the world have been waiting for, the PS5 Pro. Now, let me set the tone right from the beginning. This isn't just a slightly better PS5. This isn't a minor refresh. This is Sony taking everything developers have begged for, everything players have dreamed of, and pushing the envelope in a way that reshapes what a mid-generation upgrade can be. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly why the PS5 Pro isn't just an upgrade. It's a statement. A statement about power, about performance, and about where the future of console gaming is heading. But before we go deeper, I want you to imagine something with me. Picture a game world so detailed that even shadows feel alive. A world where lighting reacts the way your eyes expect it to. A world that makes your current PS5 look like it's politely asking, "Okay, but can we lower the settings just a bit?" Now imagine that same world running smoother, faster, sharper, like your game suddenly took a deep breath and came back with superpowers. That is the promise of the PS5 Pro. And we're about to break down everything. The power, the new experience, the upgrades, the secret advantages, the controversies, the debates, the rumors, the developer reactions, and the real-world difference this machine brings. But I'm warning you right now, once you understand what the PS5 Pro actually offers, it's going to be hard to look at a regular PS5 the same way again. Let's begin where every great console story begins. Power. Because if you're releasing a Pro, anything, you better bring the muscle. And oh, Sony brought it. The first thing that makes the PS5 Pro stand out is not just bigger numbers. It's the idea behind those numbers. It's the philosophy of making 4K gaming finally feel effortless. Because here's the truth. The original PS5 promised 4K 60, but we all know many games struggled to hit that without compromises. Resolution drops, inconsistent frame rates, ray tracing barely usable in some titles. Enter the PS5 Pro, a console built to make performance mode versus quality mode debates feel ancient. A console that wants to make developers say, "Okay, now we can finally do what we planned." And here's where things get interesting. The moment you start thinking about upgrading, a question pops up. Is it really worth it? And trust me, that question gets louder when a console generation is halfway through. But the PS5 Pro answers that question in a way that speaks directly to gamers. Better frame rates, better ray tracing, better visuals, better stability, better future-proofing. And if you've ever felt that your PS5 is sweating just a little in modern AAA games, you're going to appreciate what this new machine offers. Now, let's talk about something that has the entire gaming community buzzing, the upgraded graphics architecture. This isn't just a bump. This is Sony delivering hardware that focuses laser-precisely on the features modern games rely on the most. But it's not only about raw GPU numbers. It's also about smarter technology. Upscaling tech, better rendering, better lighting systems, improved game detail retention, all working together so games can push boundaries without breaking performance. And that leads to something incredibly important: ray tracing. If you've ever turned on ray tracing in a PS5 game, you know it comes with a silent warning label. Use at your own risk. Your frame rate may not survive. But on the PS5 Pro, ray tracing isn't a bonus. It's a feature that finally feels viable. Not just in cutscenes, not just in photo mode, but in actual gameplay. Imagine playing in a world where reflections behave correctly, shadows fall naturally, and lighting feels cinematic without costing you smooth gameplay. That's the experience the PS5 Pro wants to normalize. But the performance story doesn't end there, because the real magic happens when developers get their hands dirty and actually optimize for it. And inside studios, that's exactly what's happening. Developers are excited, not because the PS5 Pro is more powerful, but because it gives them breathing room. Room to add effects they had to cut. Room to hit frame rates they were struggling to maintain. room to future-proof their games in a world where graphics expectations are only rising. And this leads us to a key idea. The PS5 Pro is not launching into the same world the PS4 Pro did. This time, games are heavier. Engines are more advanced. Visual standards are higher. The timing makes sense. But let's step back and talk about something that everyone wants to know. What does this upgrade feel like moment to moment? Because specs are one thing, but how does the experience actually change? Let's paint the picture. You boot up a game you've already played and immediately notice the difference. Sharper textures where things once looked slightly blurry. Smoother camera movement where there used to be tiny stutters. More detailed environments that suddenly feel alive. Lighting that transforms scenes from nice to wow. Even simple moments, turning a corner, looking at scenery, watching a cutscene, feel richer. It's the kind of upgrade you don't fully appreciate until you see it, and then you can't unsee it. Now, let's address something interesting, the psychology of a pro console. Some gamers love the idea instantly. Others feel skeptical, and many say, why not wait for the PS6? That's a fair question, but here's the surprising truth. The PS5 Pro is designed to make the PS6 better. Developers get a runway. Tech gets tested. New rendering methods get adopted. Players experience smoother performance long before the next big leap. It's not a replacement for the PS6. It's the evolution that lets the next generation start at full speed instead of warming up. But here's something even more important. If you've been feeling like today's AAA games are pushing the PS5 to the edge, you're not imagining it. Games are bigger, heavier, and more ambitious. The PS5 Pro isn't a luxury, it's reinforcement. Now, let's talk about something subtle but game-changing: consistency. What makes a game feel next-gen is not just how pretty it looks, it's how stable it feels. Frame rate stability, loading time consistency, scene transitions that don't hiccup, visual clarity that doesn't dip mid-battle. The PS5 Pro isn't just about raising the ceiling, it's about reinforcing the floor. And trust me, once you experience a game that runs smoother, cleaner, and more stable, going back feels like driving with a flat tire. But let's shift gears for a moment. Every console launch comes with debates, and the PS5 Pro has sparked a big one. Is this upgrade really necessary? Will games even use the extra power? Is this just Sony cashing in? These questions matter, and they're worth exploring. The short answer? Developers will use the power, because modern games basically have to. Performance demands are skyrocketing, and hardware has to keep up. The PS5 Pro gives studios the breathing room they've been begging for. But the more interesting question is this: does the PS5 Pro create a hardware divide? The truth is, not really. Developers design for the base PS5 first. The Pro gets enhancements, not exclusives, meaning you don't lose anything by staying on PS5, but you gain a lot by moving to the Pro. It's optional power, optional performance, optional luxury, but a luxury that many players will feel immediately. And that brings us to a moment of honesty. Not every upgrade is mind-blowing. Some games will show small improvements. Others will show huge ones. But across the board, the trend is clear. Better frame rates, better visuals, better upscaling, better ray tracing, better stability, better future-proofing. And that adds up. Now, I want you to imagine something bigger. The future. A future where the biggest games of the next 2 years all launch on PS5. A future where developers prioritize performance more than ever. A future where the baseline for gaming keeps rising. The PS5 Pro is not the end of a generation. It's the energy boost that keeps it thriving. A console generation doesn't die when the next machine arrives. It dies when developers stop being excited. And the PS5 Pro brings excitement back. So as we wrap up this deep dive, what does the PS5 Pro really represent? It represents smoother gaming, cleaner visuals, more cinematic lighting, more consistent performance, more headroom for the games you already love, and more potential for the games that haven't even been announced yet. It represents a console generation that isn't slowing down, it's accelerating. If you're the kind of gamer who notices frame rate dips, if you're the kind who values visual clarity, if you're the kind who replays games and wants the best version, the PS5 Pro isn't just an upgrade. It's the version of the PS5 that always should have existed. And if you're the kind of gamer who's wondering whether this upgrade is worth it, the answer depends on one question only. Do you want your games to look and feel noticeably better right now? Because that's exactly what the PS5 Pro delivers. This is the future of mid-generation power. This is Sony making a statement. This is gaming stepping into a new level of smoothness and visual fidelity. And this is just the beginning. And now that we've explored the power of the PS5 Pro, let's go even deeper. Because to understand this console fully, you have to understand the philosophy behind it. What makes Sony confident enough to release a mid-gen upgrade in a world where people are more critical, more informed, and more demanding than ever? The answer lies in a simple idea. Gamers today expect more. We expect worlds that look real. We expect gameplay that feels fluid. We expect frames that don't drop, textures that don't smudge, shadows that don't flicker, and lighting that doesn't snap between quality levels. And let's be honest, some of the biggest games recently have shown us that modern gaming is pushing limits. Big, ambitious games, sometimes bigger than the base consoles were prepared for. Sony knows this. Developers know this. Gamers absolutely know this. And the PS5 Pro is Sony's way of saying, we hear you. We see where gaming is going. And we're not waiting until the PS6 to fix performance. Because if you've ever been in the middle of a boss fight only to feel your frame rate buckle under pressure, you know how much a more powerful console matters. But the PS5 Pro isn't just about fixing problems. It's about opening new possibilities. Let's talk about immersion. Gaming immersion isn't only created by graphics. It's created by consistency. When a world feels uninterrupted, flawless, stable, your brain stays in the experience longer. The PS5 Pro's improved frame pacing, smoother rendering, reduced micro stutters, and better resource handling sound technical. But the feeling is emotional. It feels like your game is respecting your time. It feels like the console is keeping up with your imagination. It feels like the world is alive without constant reminders that this is just hardware trying to cope. And there's something else, something subtle but powerful. The PS5 Pro changes the way games age. We're entering an era where titles remain relevant for years, even decades. Games get updates. Games get expansions. Games evolve. And a more powerful console means your favorite titles get more room to grow. Think about your current library. Think about the games you love that you know could look or run better with just a bit more horsepower. Think of semi-open world games where the resolution sometimes dips. Think of cinematic games where shadows don't quite match the lighting. Think of fast action titles where you feel that tiny bit of input delay when things get chaotic. The PS5 Pro isn't here to change those games. It's here to unlock them. But let's shift into something even more interesting. Something that affects how long the PS5 Pro will stay relevant. AI-driven upscaling. This is where the console breaks away from traditional generation gaps. For years, resolution has been a battle of who can push more pixels. But now it's about smart rendering, making images look sharper through intelligent processing instead of brute force. The PS5 Pro leans heavily into this. It uses advanced upscaling the way high-end PCs do. So instead of fighting to natively render every pixel, it focuses on creating the sharpest possible image with smarter techniques. This is the same direction the entire gaming industry is moving. And Sony is putting it into your living room before the next generation even arrives. Meaning, even when games get more demanding, even when visuals get bigger, even when developers push boundaries, the PS5 Pro stays relevant because it isn't relying solely on raw power. It's using smarter power. But hardware isn't everything. Let's talk about something people often overlook. The Pro mindset. Who is the PS5 Pro actually for? Not just graphics enthusiasts. Not just competitive play. Yaris. Not just early adopters. It's for anyone who wants their games to feel like they're running the way the developers intended. It's for players who replay their favorite titles every year and want the best version. It's for parents who want to future-proof a console for their kids. It's for gamers who want to make the most out of their 4K TVs. It's for streamers, content creators, and competitive players who need stability. But most importantly, it's for people who love gaming enough to notice when something feels better, even if they can't always explain why. Which brings us to a fascinating point. People assume hardware upgrades are just about chasing numbers. But the truth is more emotional than that. The PS5 Pro is about comfort, smoothness, reliability, longevity, and that feeling you get when a game looks so good, you catch yourself smiling. Now, let's address the elephant in the room. Should you upgrade? Some say yes. Some say no. But the real answer depends on one thing. How much do you value immersion? Because if immersion matters to you, if smoothness matters, if cinematic gameplay matters, then the Pro matters. And if it doesn't, then your PS5 is still an incredible machine. It doesn't suddenly become outdated. It doesn't suddenly become weak. It doesn't suddenly lose value. But the difference between great and next level is exactly what the PS5 Pro delivers. Now let's dive into something more future-focused. What will this upgrade mean for the gaming industry? Well, consider this. Developers now have more room to experiment with lighting, physics, and real-time effects. They can push engines further. They can introduce new rendering techniques. They can aim for higher frame rates without sacrificing visual impact. They can build worlds that feel dense instead of empty. And when developers have freedom, you and I get better games. Players often forget that hardware limitations force devs to compromise. A studio might want to add weather systems, but memory budgets say no. They might want more NPCs, but CPU load says no. They might want improved textures, but bandwidth says no. The PS5 Pro removes many of those no's. It turns limitations into opportunities. And that means the games you play 2 or 3 years from now won't just run better. They'll be designed better. This is the quiet advantage of the PS5 Pro. The benefits grow over time. Not on day one, not during the launch window, but month after month, year after year, as developers push further. And speaking of the future, let's talk about the next generation for a moment. When the PS6 eventually arrives, guess who will be most prepared for it? The studios that mastered the PS5 Pro. The players who understood the value of smoother performance. The developers who learned to optimize for advanced upscaling techniques. The engines that already rely on smarter rendering. The PS5 Pro is the training ground for the next generation. Just like the PS4 Pro helped usher in 4K. The PS5 Pro is helping usher in smarter rendering, advanced ray tracing, and high-refresh console gaming. Without it, the generational jump would be too steep. But with it, the transition becomes seamless. And now let's talk directly to you, the person listening right now. You're here because you love gaming. Not casually, not occasionally, but enough to watch a 30-minute deep dive on a console. That means something. It means you want the best experience. It means you want to understand the upgrade. It means you care about where gaming is heading. So let me leave you with this thought. The PS5 Pro is not about perfection. It's about elevation. It elevates visuals. It elevates performance. It elevates stability. It elevates the lifespan of your library. It elevates the potential of upcoming games. It elevates the standard for what a mid-generation upgrade can be. And maybe most importantly, it elevates your experience, not just today, but for years to come. Whether you upgrade or not, one thing is certain. The future of gaming just took a very noticeable step forward. And with the PS5 Pro, Sony isn't just inviting you to witness that future. They're inviting you to play it.